Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of DGS2 Case 2. We just brought Viridian Green in, and we are asking her to testify about what happened to her 6 days ago on the night that she had a knife dropped onto her back, to figure out her whereabouts and why, just if she has anything to add along with Petency. We're getting close to the end though, I can tell you that, because with her showing up, there's not much, whole lot left. Also, let me fix the sound. I think that's still too loud. Alright, with feeling now. The evening 6 days ago.
6 days ago, at around 5 p.m., I was suddenly stabbed in the back on the snowy walkway. Apparently, the location where it happened was right in front of that boarding house where the incident occurred.
I wasn't in my room at that time. I was enjoying dinner at a pub.
It was my first time being in that area. I was there because I had something to take care of there. I ended up being hospitalized that very night, and I didn't know anything about the incident.
These two are definitely connected, because if you remember, there was a piece of envelope in Viridian's room about meeting at a pub, and Petency apparently also went to the pub at 5 p.m., which was the scheduled time. And if we remember, in Petency's room, there was a little cut-off piece of that envelope in his room somehow.
Another crime occurred on the walkway in front of this building that's been referred to as the Cursed Boarding House. There's nothing to say, but it's a very unlikely coincidence.
Meanwhile, you weren't at the boarding house at that time. I didn't learn of the incident until I awoke the following morning to the commotion on the second floor, which was crawling with police officers. That must have been when Souseki-san was being arrested as a suspect, huh? As I suspected, these two don't appear to have any points of contact. That's true. Those are the facts as far as one can see on the surface. But there must be some bigger truth lurking in the shadows, just out of sight here. This is my first and last chance. I'll just have to reveal whatever it is.
Now then, defense, you will begin your cross-examination of these two.
Yes, Your Honor! A little bit about 40 pages left on the script, so yeah, we're pretty close. I don't think we'll finish it in these next two videos, but maybe three more videos will be done, I think, of this trial, this case. So, what were you doing there that night?
Huh?
What was the name of the art school you're attending again?
Oh, it's Thorndike Art Academy.
According to Home-sama, it's in the Brixton Street neighborhood. We were told that it's about 10 subway stations away from the scene of the crime.
As I recall, you said you lived on Brixton Street. So, what were you doing walking around the East End?
That area is, let's see. Oh, right. I thought I might find a subject for a painting there.
The witness is a future painter. She can't be expected to find all the material for her work in the city alone.
That's right. I love that decaying look.
Okay, Viridian.
Perhaps you could avoid creating hard feelings by referring to it as rustic.
The point here is that she's trying to hide something.
It seems that she's not willing to divulge it on her own.
The fact that she's trying to hide her reason for being there must mean that there's a reason she has to hide it. That's the key thing here. By the way, Petency-san, would you mind testifying about what you were doing at the time around when the incident 6 days ago was happening?
Certainly.
So, about that pub. based in East End Paradise, known as the Pepper Pavilion. Now that I think about it, it's a touch odd. Hmm? What do you mean, Prosecutor Van Zieks? The Pepper Pavilion is known for being a rather expensive eatery for that area. It's not the type of place that could be visited casually by a man who can't afford to have a single crust of bread in his room. Oh!
That's true. Their menu includes items such as ultimate biscuit crumbs and the finest water.
The finest water. Also, well, how does Sato have the menu in her book? You'd be able to enjoy a better meal at the nearby restaurant, the Tumble Down. For example, watery soup and salad. Or was it soupy water and cabbage stems? Baroque! They sound equally terrible to me. Sometimes I just feel like drinking my water at a different pub is all. Different water, huh?
Or perhaps he actually had another reason. A special reason that he had to go to the Pepper Pavilion.
Good point. The fact that he just happened to go to a different restaurant that night than usual is a little strange. So Petency-san randomly switched things up 6 days ago, huh? Do I have any evidence that might indicate a reason for that? Show evidence? Nothing to show right now. At this point, nothing to show. Unfortunately, I don't see anything I can present right now to prove that.
If we find any clues, let's be sure to shove it in his face.
Yes, of course.
Now then, Miss Green, please continue your testimony.
So, what was this something you had to take care of?
It was something very trivial. I don't see the need to talk about it.
I believe you told us yesterday when we visited you at the hospital.
Huh?
About the card you had with you. Viridian-san! What was that about? It looked like she hid something behind her back. Them loadings! As I recall, the card had this written on it. I have something to tell you about Duncan Ross's death.
What about it? I don't see what Duncan has to do with this.
Is everything alright, Petency-san? To be or not to be? That is the question. Ah, pardon me. I quoted Shakespeare before I knew what I was doing. Is that really something you can do without knowing what you're doing? You seem to be deep in thought after hearing Miss Green's testimony. Apparently something came to you, didn't it? What? No, nothing in particular. Are you familiar with the name Duncan Ross? After all, he lived in the same boarding house as you. Well, even so. I hardly ever encountered him, you see. In spite of being lodgers at the same house, we weren't acquainted. Even though he died in the room on the floor above you. Oh boy, you're sweating, Sonny!
Miss Viridian?
Yes? Are you talking to me?
May I ask you about the card that was mentioned earlier?
Yes. I don't need it anymore. You can tear it up and throw it away.
In that case, before we dispose of it, let's keep it as evidence for a while.
And that's what we needed. Viridian's card. A card and envelope that were roughly torn open. Apparently she was called out by someone with information on Duncan Ross's death. Petency-san and Viridian-san do have one point of contact with each other. Duncan Ross. He's the answer to this.
Now then, let's return to the testimony.
Oh, I don't have the lines for this. I will have to add this later. 1 second, I need to add this note. I'm letting this play because, in post-production, I will add a translation to this. I do not have the translation for this, but since I pressed on it, I might as well ask Hikari to go ahead and just add the translation for it. So this will all be, unfortunately not voiced, but it will have subtitles for it.
You did a wonderful job with that questioning.
Yeah, and thanks to that, we were able to get our hands on a new clue. Alright, where should I try questioning next?
Since you managed to get a new clue, perhaps it would be better to see what new paths you can open using it.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I guess just shouting at people to hold on isn't enough to open any possibilities, huh? Alright, we are pressing on the third statement, apparently. This, yeah, we've already done this, so we're gonna go right through this. He was at the Pepper Pavilion, and Baroque points out that how it's like kind of high-end for Briar Road. This is where we were, we had to skip that one statement about, like, showing or nothing to show. This time we are going to show evidence. Alright, do I have evidence that indicate a reason for that? You do have evidence this time, so we're gonna show it. Petency-san. Yes? Did you perhaps have a special reason for visiting the Pepper Pavilion that night, contrary to your usual behavior? I wouldn't know anything about that. In fact, I'm the one who'd like to know. Petency. In that case, perhaps you could take a look at this piece of evidence for me. This is the reason you had to go to the Pepper Pavilion that day. Was it the rip thing? Okay, I guess I'm supposed to the rip part of it. This is wrong. I'm gonna let this play too, so then Hikari can translate it too. I pick the wrong thing. Or is this right? No, it's not right. Yep, okay, there's the damage. I was like, huh? Where's my damage? There we go, there's the damage. Sorry, Naruhodō, I can't Japanese very well. And I can't read scripts very well either. No. It's okay, it's extra dialogue. I don't know about you, but I always like extra stuff. Alright, let's try that again. Alright, I figured out what my problem was. I misread somehow. I did not read examine the thing. I just thought, let's present the thing. I went too far ahead of myself. So the thing is that we need to like connect this thing to this thing. And in order for that to work, and we have to examine either one of them. I just checked both of them. I examined the other one and it does the same thing, but I think it's like a different dialogue. Let's examine this. Alright, we're back on track, thank God. Ugh, this envelope was ripped open pretty roughly. Like, I get the feeling Viridian-san is the type who cut it open neatly. What's wrong? I can't help feeling like I've seen the shape of this rip somewhere before.
Oh, could it be? Perhaps it's this piece of evidence.
You're right, that's it. Let's try putting them together. Alright, so here's the thing. We had to connect these two evidences together before we could actually present. I thought so! I just like sitting here like, what am I doing wrong? Did I need to actually examine something? And then I looked at the notes and I'm like, this says examine, not present. Go me, I can totally read.
It's a perfect match. There's no mistaking it. This piece was ripped off of this envelope.
And we couldn't make that connection because we technically didn't have Viridian's card yet. We did read it at the hospital, but we never actually retrieved it. So Viridian's card, a roughly torn envelope and card. The rip matches perfectly with a torn shred of paper found at the crime scene. Envelope scrap. A torn piece of envelope found in the victim's room. It's a perfect match with the rip in the envelope Viridian-san was carrying. Okay, now we should do it fine. See, I already made a mistake. You can see I got 3 tries left because I tried again and I did it wrong. Presenting the other thing, so. Oh my god! I don't do that game! The song just faded out! It didn't stop abruptly and it scared me! I can't help wondering about this card.
Isn't that Miss Viridian's card?
That's right. Inside, the following is written. I have something to tell you about Duncan Ross's death. Come to the pub Pepper Pavilion on Briar Road on the 17th at 5 p.m. I have some very important information for you. Please be as discreet as possible about this. Petency-san, your actions on the day of the crime are actually exactly as directed by this letter. Here we go. I can't imagine that this is just a coincidence. Well, what do you have to say for yourself, Petency-san?
Just a moment, please.
What is it, Viridian-san?
I was the one who received that card, remember? So I don't see how it could have anything to do with this oddball.
That's true, but it can't just be a coincidence.
Your Honor?
Yes?
There's something I'd like to clear up about that card.
In that case, witness, you may add it to your testimony. Tell us about this curious card.
This letter was addressed to me, so it has nothing to do with this oddball standing next to me.
It doesn't, does it? Alright, well, now we're gonna present the other piece of the evidence. The day before the incident, in other words, 7 days ago, this letter arrived at your residence. So you set out as directed by the letter and met with an accident.
Yes, I certainly did. It's terrible, isn't it?
I agreed that it would be terrible. If it were true, that is.
What are you implying?
Miss Green, would you mind having a look at this for me? It's a shred of the exact same envelope in which you received your letter.
Huh?
And this scrap is a perfect match for the rip in the envelope your letter was sent in.
Where did you...
In Petency-san's room. What? In my room? Petency-san, could it be that you recognize this letter? Your actions on the day of the incident are just as directed by this letter. Please come to the Pepper Pavilion at 5 p.m. So off you went. Ooh. Viridian's actually looking in his direction. It was a split second, but she looked over. Petency-san, I'll ask you one more time. What do you know about this letter? Of course he doesn't say. And you, Viridian-san.
You're turning on me now?
As was proven by the shred of the envelope found on the floor in his room, this letter must have been in Petency-san's room at one point. So then, why was this letter in your possession?
Who knows? I'm not really sure myself. I'm just a future painter.
There's only one answer I can think of. You got this by breaking into Mr. Petency's room. Oi, you little, young lady. Did you break into my room? Just, who in the world are you? Also, what was that weird language he had a weird accent for a minute there. His dialect changed for a second.
It would appear that we need to have you two testify once more. Oh.
Witness, Viridian Green.
Yes, sir?
As a victim who was only just released from hospital, we all sympathize with you. However, anyone who provides false testimony to the Supreme Court will pay for their crime. I advise you to bear that in mind.
Yes, I know.
Oh, she just stopped painting all of a sudden. I'm done.
Now then, witnesses, your testimony, please. Tell us about the contradiction with this letter.
A contradictory letter. Music picked up. This letter was delivered to me about a week ago, as I recall. That day, I waited at the Pepper Pavilion for about an hour, but no one showed up, so I went home. After that, when the Japanese man visited me later that night, it was indeed missing.
I don't know anything about it. What are you accusing me of having done after breaking into his room? He's the villain here. I don't know anything about any envelope scrap.
So you were the one who received this letter?
Yes, you're absolutely correct, Your Honor. As I recall, it should have been sitting on my table. But now that I think about it, I don't remember seeing it after I returned from the Pepper Pavilion that night.
Which would have to mean, young lady, that your testimony was...
I think it'd be rather harsh of you to decide just from that it was all a lie.
Oh?
I've been as truthful as a future painter can be.
I don't think being a painter has anything to do about truth and lies, but okay.
That letter was, without a doubt, delivered to me. Obviously, this villain here is lying.
But in that case, how do you explain this? This envelope scrap was definitely in Petency-san's...
I don't think I need to explain that.
Eh?
I'm just a future painter. All I can testify about is what I know. Explaining and proving things is a future defense attorney's job, if you ask me.
She's treating me like some sort of trainee. I mean, aren't you, technically, at this point in the timeline? It would seem that we have no choice but to reveal the truth via a cross-examination.
And you do that, defense?
I will, Your Honor.
In that case, your cross-examination, please.
There can be no doubt that Viridian-sama broke into Petency-sama's room. And that's when she made off with the letter. Yes, those two facts reveal a certain possibility. And a pretty scary possibility at that. Yeah, this is gonna get dark real fast. Alright, we're gonna go in this testimony and then we're gonna end it afterwards. Actually, might be able to finish this in the next video from the looks of it. Anyway. So in the end, you waited for an hour and no one showed up. Yes, well, yes. I suppose you could say that. You seem a little hesitant to confirm it. Well, it's just that when you asked whether anyone came, I happened to remember.
Oh? So then, someone did show up?
Now that you mention it, while I was at the Pepper Pavilion that night, I was absorbed in the finest water and highest quality ultimate biscuit crumbs. And all around me was a flying swarm enjoying themselves. Flying swarm? Of flies.
I see.
But perhaps it was in fact a swarm of mischievous pixies in disguise, not unlike the ones who appear in A Midsummer's Night's Dream. No! That seems like an insult to the pixies if you ask me. I can't help feeling that the Fly-samas could have picked something better to swarm around as well. Was it terrible of me to have unintentionally thought of such a thing? Susato, you're so precious. Fly-samas? Really? Alright, we're presenting something here. So, remember what we discovered in Petency's room? There was some strychnine. And he was poisoned by strychnine. Where was that strychnine? Also, what else did Viridian have when she was at the hospital? You had this bottle in your hospital room yesterday, correct? There was a small amount of medicine remaining in the bottle. The defense carried out an independent investigation and found, well, it was Holmes-san's experiment that found it, actually, that the substance remaining in this bottle was strychnine. What? Strychnine? But that's the poison that was discovered in the victim's system. Huh? You had one very specific objective. When you broke into Petency-san's room, you paint the poison on Petency-san's lamp pipe. Petency's looking at her.
Poison?
You were the one. Though it's hard for me to believe, Viridian-san. There's only one conclusion I can draw from the clues that were left behind. That the one who tried to take Petency-san's life with poison was you! Paint her down! Paint her down!
Order! Order! Oh, what a twist! So, in an attempt to murder the victim, she painted poison on the opening of his gas pipe?
Yes, that's the only thing that makes sense.
But if she set such a trap 6 days ago, then that would have mean that this witness put his mouth on the pipe that very night. Which would in turn mean that the attempted murder should have taken place 6 days ago. Would it not?
Well, he has a point. We can assume that that wasn't the case. Due to the investigation of the incident, there were a large number of police officers near the crime scene that night. They sought the cooperation of the residents in the area during the course of their investigation, questioning them repeatedly and collecting information. Anyone with the smallest amount of caution would have tried to commit a crime under conditions like that. Thanks, Baroque! Prosecutor Van Zeeks.
And then, the very next morning, a huge incident occurred at the boarding house.
A huge incident? Oh! Souseki-san, the second-floor boarder, was arrested as a murder suspect.
Yes, and as the defense has already proven, Petency-sama's goal in blowing into the gas pipe was to fill Souseki-sama's room with gas fumes and cause him to suffocate.
Souseki-san was arrested, and his room was under constant surveillance by the yard. Under those circumstances, there would have been no point in blowing into the gas pipe, because his target was locked up in the detention center. Since this man didn't blow into the pipe at that time, the poison lie in wait. Yeah, I'm getting flashes of Case 4 and Apollo Justice now, like, holy crap.
Now, skip ahead to 3 days ago. What happened then?
I see. Souseki-san's trial reached a conclusion in this very court.
He was declared not guilty of the assault of Viridian Green.
Souseki-san returned to his room at the boarding house for the first time in 2 days. That very night, the flame in his gas stove went out, and Petency-san collapsed from poisoning. You are so screwed, Sonny. In other words, the poison on the pipe had already been placed there 4 days before the incident even occurred. Woe is me! We're almost there! When you consider that, it becomes clear that this letter was part of a plan, which we will go ahead and talk about in the next video because we are slightly over. But that's because I had to do a lot of cutting, so I'm not sure how long this video got in the end. But we're gonna stop here, and maybe more. Hopefully we will finish this in the next video. So I'll see you guys then.